Hey guys, Colin here, and I'm back with my weekly uh, update of my records and books and antiques and other stuff. I'm coming at you on a weekend this time because my days off at work have changed. Uh, my days off used to be Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's usually when you would see my new weekly video up, but now my days off are on the weekends, at least for now. They could change again back at some point, but for now I'm on the weekends, and so you can expect to see me sometime on the weekend, uh, from early afternoon all the way into late at night, because I never know when I'm going to be on anymore because I'm so busy all the time. And I got some records to show you first here. And first off, we have a Tom Waits, Never Talk to Strangers, Rare Radio Appearances. And that is just what it says. I think this is some sort of a bootleg or something. And this is just Tom Waits on some radio shows from various periods in time, mostly the 70s, 1973-ish, in there somewhere. And I like radio stuff, and Tom Waits is on that one on the radio, so I thought I would check that out. Speaking of radio, you might see some more of this radio crazy stuff up here pretty soon at some point, because there's certainly lots of crazy shit going on these days that I can talk about and rant and rave and whatever I want to do. And you know I like to live dangerously. Anyway, here we have Tommy James and the Shondells, Crimson and Clover. 1968 is when this album came out. It has Crimson and Clover, Crystal Blue Persuasion, which is probably a cover song, but that's a very psychedelic cover there going on. And next we have Testament, Dark Roots of Earth, Testament there, a gatefold. This came out in 2012, I believe. Yeah, 2012. But I actually seen these guys way back in the early 1990s when I was going to college at my school. And the singer of this claims to be native. His name is Chuck Billy. But way back then, I seen him at a club. It was an old club on the north side of town. And I went with my friend. And the friend I had at the time, he's passed away now. But at that time, he got really drunk at this concert, this Testament concert that we went to, and at that there was mosh pits. This is like the early 90s, you know, they get into mosh pits and they knock each other around and all that crap. But he tried to get in a mosh pit, and he's probably about 5'2", little chubby guy. And there was all these mostly college kids, shirtless, all sweaty, and everything. It smelled like ass in there most of the time we were in there. But he got knocked across the floor. All I seen was him flying out of the mosh pit backwards, kind of like this, with his hands in the air, and he was sliding across the floor, and his arms kind of went in Jesus on the cross position, and then he just kind of skidded to a stop right there at my feet almost. I was about 100 feet out from the mosh pit, and he was looking back at me like this, and we both kind of just started laughing at each other. But I had a lot of fun with that guy, and that was one of our fun nights. And next we have a reissue of a James Brown and the Famous Flames. It's called Think. Good, Good Lovin', Wonder When You're Coming Home. I've been noticing I have about 3 or 4 of these reissues of the James Brown records in my collection now. They've been popping up James Brown's been popping up quite a bit in my collection lately, and I'll give that a and lastly on the records is The Truth About Bonnie and Clyde. And this isn't a soundtrack to the movie with Warren Beatty. It's The Truth About Bonnie and Clyde is told by Billie Jean Parker, Bonnie's sister. And that is Bonnie's sister giving her, it's all her talking on this to I guess it would be a radio show or something. She's giving an interview about her recollections of her sister and Clyde on their crime spree back then in the 1930s. And it says there's a couple of pictures in here suitable for framing, but unfortunately those were not in the record when I bought this. Probably a couple of years ago. I showed this probably in a video way back then of stuff that I've gotten. But the reason I bring this up is because I've been over the years I've picked up several things pertaining to bank robbers, crimes and criminals over the years. Mostly I liked the stories I read about, like old bank robbers like Jesse James and Frank James and the Younger Brothers, Bonnie and Clyde, Pretty Boy Floyd, Dillinger, those type of characters. And also the ones that were like mobsters, like Al Capone, those types of characters. That just always fascinated me, the very early era of bank robbing and train robbing and robbing stagecoaches and that sort of stuff. But my fascination with that started with my mom used to take me to, I've told this story a lot over the years in my videos. My mom used to take me to the bookstores when I was a kid with her because she was a reader. She read almost every day. She hardly ever watched TV. Sometimes she would go to a movie, but mostly she read all the time, and I would go with her. I was probably started in grade school. She took me with her to the bookstore all the time. And one thing that caught my eye as a kid is those old detective magazines, true crime, things like that. And I would take those to my mom and say, can I buy this? It just fascinated me as a morbid kid. And she would let me buy them, and I would read the stories in these. And here's an example of one of those. It's called True Detective, The Mistakes That Trapped the Son of Sam. And that lady's about ready to have some issues. They always had these scantily clad ladies on the covers of most of these to try to attract a buyer. Now, I was in grade school and I was fascinated with this type of stuff. Luckily, I didn't turn in that direction, but this is just an example of what my mom and these type of magazines and things started my fascination with old crime stuff. And I'm about to show you a few more things dealing with crime. And here's an old Life magazine from 1969, which I'm pretty sure I shared before, but I'm sharing it again here in this sort of crime section of this video. Charles Manson, The Love and the Terror Cult. This is a fairly famous Life magazine cover that you can find here and there. Charlie Manson there. It's really interesting to read the magazine from that era because it also has all of the advertisements and stuff from back then. And look at this old camera. $29.95 color pack 2 instant camera. It has advertisements like that besides the article that you want to read. And then there's some stuff going on back then in the day. I think that's Andy Warhol down there. Things like that. That's one of the true crime stuff that I collect. And next, I have this wanted poster of John Dillinger from 1934. This is very interesting. The Division of Investigation, U.S. Department of Justice. One of the things in my collection is this wanted poster of John Dillinger. My grandma used to talk about meeting this guy on the Potawatomi Reservation when she was a teenager. And this would have been back in the 1930s. She said that him and she didn't know who was with him, but she knew that it was John Dillinger. And him and whoever he was with, his crew or whatever, they stopped at their house. They lived at the bottom. It was a dead-end road, but it was at the bottom of 2 big hills. And the house would be right here in the middle, kind of off back in the brush or trees and stuff. But she said that he showed up and asked my great-grandmother if they could have some water. And they let them go to the well and get their water and whatever. And apparently they visited for a bit and found out his name. I don't know what they were probably on the back roads up to some monkey business or something here. But anyway, I got this wanted poster, which I think is pretty cool. Now, to me, I think it's about 50-50 whether this is real or not, or authentic, even though it says the authentic FBI 1934 wanted poster. I've kind of researched it some, and I'm kind of in between on whether I think this is real. I'm not really an expert. On the back, it has all the phone numbers and stuff to various offices. But I think it's about 50-50 whether that wanted poster is real. And I want to get it framed, even if it isn't, or it is. It'd be even more cool. Because there's a big counterfeit industry on this type of stuff. And lastly, as far as the book goes, I always show a book most of the time. This one is the story of the James and Younger brothers. You all know Jesse James and Frank James. They were famous bank robbers way back in the Western days. And this one is, it's got some really cool illustrations and things inside of there. I don't know if this will focus right. 1882, New York and St. Louis. Got a cool picture of Jesse James there, and it has other illustrations all throughout the book. This is him after he was murdered by Bob Ford. And I'll just read a little bit out of here, and that'll be the end of this video. It was an early ambition of Frank and Jesse to have and use firearms. Dr. Samuels presented each of them with a small double-barrel shotgun and the accompanying accoutrements of the sportsman. The day the gift was received was a proud and happy one to the boys. They soon learned to use them, and in a brief time they were expert shots, and many feathered songsters ceased to sing forever before their unerring aim. They shot a lot of birds, I guess. Rabbits, squirrels, and other small game were their prey. But shotguns lost their novelty after a while, and they yearned for pistols. They had read or heard of the skill of the adventurers away out on the borders, and they dreamed of rivaling them someday. At last, by dint of self-denial and persistent saving, Frank and Jessie made glad by an opportunity which offered to procure pistols on the occasion of a visit to St. Joseph, which they were permitted to make in the company of Dr. and Mrs. Samuels. And there's an illustration of Frank and Jessie with their shotguns right there. But this is a really interesting book about their lives, and it's not all about bank robbing. You see, you get some history there of their teenage days, and it's just a really cool book. And that's it. That's my my video for the day. Some records and some crime related things. Tune in again. Colin over and out, and weirdos unite.